Here's the SwiftUI MVVM app we're building, an events list app that navigates smoothly between screens. The best part, you'll start to understand MVVM in SwiftUI so clearly that you can start adding your own features right away after this video. In this first part, we'll set up the MVVM structure, create our event model and connect it to SwiftUI view so we can display real data instantly. Let's dive in. Open Xcode, create a brand new SwiftUI project, and we'll start to build the foundation of the entire app series. Welcome to iOS Insights, the channel for iOS app development using SwiftUI and Swift. Don't forget to subscribe for more Swift and SwiftUI tutorials. Today we'll focus on the stepper, indicator view, and the event card view. The purpose of the stepper indicator view is to enable the user to navigate from different cards or screens as seen here. As you can see, these two dots, if the user swipes any of these two dots, then the event card view will navigate to a different view. And the event card view that we'll be implementing will include the event thumbnail and the date and the time and the location of the event as seen on the screen here, and it also will indicate if the event is free or not. So this is what we will be implementing today. The first thing we need to do is to create a new SwiftUI file. Name the file stepper indicator view. And then type in the following: let total int, and the purpose of that variable is to assign the total number of steps or dots to be displayed. As shown earlier, in our version, it just includes 2 dots. We also need another variable which is called current index. And that should be int data type. And the purpose of that variable is to highlight the dot that we're currently on by using the current index. We also need a on-tap closure, and the purpose of the on-tap closure will enable the user to tap the actions of the dots so that the user can navigate from one event to the next and display those information on the screen. We can delete the preview as we're not using it at the moment. Next thing we need to do on lines 19, we need to loop through each of the steps for each less than total ID, so we give each of the elements a unique ID. Index in. And then to create the actual dot, we use the circle shape. And then we fill the circle shape. Index is equal to current index. So we fill the circle shape with a different color based on whether it's a current step or not. Color dot primary, else it should be primary, else color secondary, opacity 0.4. The next thing we need to do is we need to set the frame or the size of the dot. So the width of the dot will be 10 pixels and the height will be 10. And to enable the user to have interaction with the dot, we have to use on-tap gesture. So when the user interacts with the on-tap gesture, it will call the on-tap with the index. And that will be returned by the closure. We also need to add a bit of padding. Padding top 8. And also some padding to the bottom 16. And we missed out something, that was my mistake. We need a H stack on lines 20. Spacing of 8. Now just compile it. Or let me just indent it a bit. Do some indentation. It's compiled. So the next thing we need to do is to implement the events card view. So to do that, we need to create another SwiftUI view. Event card view. After lines 10, we need to enter the following. var event room event. Delete the preview. The purpose of lines 12 is to capture the event data that needs to be displayed on the view. We also need an at state, private var, variable is image loaded, equals to false, and that just tracks to see if the event image has been loaded successfully or not. We can delete line 17 and add the following: geometry reader, geometry in, we need a Z stack, and now we check to see if the image URL is valid. If let URL string dot event image URL, not URL, string is empty, let URL equals to URL string URL string. On line 21, what we just done a check to see if the image URL is valid. So if the URL is valid, that means we're able to display the URL within our view. So to display the URL within our view, we use the async image, and then we capture the URL. Then we switch the phase. So if it was empty, then we need to display a Z stack. And also display a progress bar or spinner to indicate that something is being retrieved remotely. Color.gray.opacity 0.2. Progress view style circular progress view style, and then we need the tint overloading method for the color that needs to be primary. On line 23, I spelled phase incorrectly, so that should be PHASE. For the next case statement, if it was a success, then we capture the image, image.resizable, scale to fill, dot on a pair is image loaded equals true. So we now have the image, so we assign the is image loaded variable to true. In the event we are unable to get the image or to retrieve the synchronous request, then we use the failure statement. And then we also use a fallback image, which hasn't been created as yet. But the purpose of the fallback image is to enable the user to have some image displayed on the screen in the event of an error. So we'll create the fallback image later on. Just add a bit of indentation there. And then we also need unknown. It should be unknown defaults. And the purpose of the unknown default is to handle any unexpected cases. And then we call the fallback image again. To stop Xcode from complaining, let's just create the fallback image now after line 47. After line 46. So just type in the following: private var fallback image, some view, vstack, spacer, hstack, spacer, image, system name, photo. So the image system name photo will be the fallback image. Let's make it resizable. Scale to fit. The frame will be 68. Frame width 68 pixels, and the height will be 68 pixels, so it's nice and square. The foreground color, white, opacity 0.6. Spacer We also need another spacer here. And then for the background, that will be .gray, .opacity 0.2. I'll just compile it. The next thing we need to do is after lines 41, we need to add .frame, width, geometry, size, .width, -32, height, geometry, size, .width, times by 1.2. And then we need to add a clip and a corner radius 24. And we also need to reuse this, so I just copy and paste it. Really, it should be within a function or a reusable view. And so we need an else statement here. If no image URL, then we need to show the fallback image again. And then just paste that there. The next thing we need to do is to add an overlay gradient to the bottom of the card. To do that, we need to implement it after lines 49. So if is image loaded or event.image URL is empty, then we add our linear gradient that will include the following. So the overload that we need is first one, which is colors, and then we just pass in our gradient. That is incorrect. It's the second overload that we need. That's the one. So we pass in our gradient with our array of colors. So the colors that we're passing in includes .clear and also .black, opacity, .85, Start point will be dot top, and end point will be dot bottom. We also need to add a corner radius of 24 and a frame. Width.geometry, let's not picking that up. So the corner radius, that's right, 24. Where's the geometry? I'll just try it again. So that should be frame, width, geometry. I just picked it up now. I must have spelled it correctly the first time. Minus 32. And height, geometry, size. Width times by 1.2. And then the next thing we need to do is to create another VStack. Alignment.leading, spacing 4. And then within the VStack we show the event name. If the event name doesn't exist, we just display or include blanks. And we also show the event venue. And then we use a gradient title style with a font size of 24. Not 24, 14. We also need to show the location of the event.location, gradient title style 28, and a spacer. We also need to show other information such as the date of the event, if it's happening today or not, and if the event is free or chargeable. Should be hstack spacing 50. And we have a V-stack, alignment, leading, spacing, 4. And then for our label, we just display today. For the system image, we just use calendar.